First, we'll have the invocation by Councilman Jackie Bob Martin.
Come to you in prayer this afternoon, thanking you for another day that you watched over us and met our needs, and we thank you for the freedom that we have to come together like this and take care of business. And I pray that we take care of our people's debt, God, you help us to do the right thing and make the right decision. And we thank you for each person that's in this tonight, God, that you bless their lives and bless their home. And we thank you for it. I say and praise. Amen.
Thank you, Jackie Bob.
Roll call, please.
Bill England.
Here.
Bill John Baker.
Here.
Robert Connor. Kara Cowan. Here. Bo Clinton.
Here.
Kevin Fraley. Here. John Garvin. Here. Charles Hoskin.
Here.
William Johnson.
Here.
John Kent.
Here.
Linda O'Leary. Jackie Bob Martin.
Amen.
Lavon Shottown. David Thornton.
Present.
Joel Jordan. Here.
13 present, we have a quorum. Next item is approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
Okay. Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, we have the State of the Nation. The chief is not here tonight. He's in Philadelphia. So I'm going to do the State of the Nation for him. Well, at first, let me give you Chief Smith's apologies for not being here tonight. Chief Smith is in Philadelphia at the annual meeting of the American Law Institute. He will be representing Cherokee Nation's interest in how Indian laws are characterized and in developing uniform Indian law. Let us start tonight's State of the Nation with a few moments of recognizing our Cherokee citizens and friends who passed away during last month. First one is a former Sequoia High School student and athlete, Chad Stevens. Chad was a starting quarterback for our Sequoia football team and an all-around athlete. Next, we have Curry Wilcoxon, one of our health receptionists at the Sam Hyder Community Clinic. Curry is remembered for her bravery and spirit. Next, we have Andy Gonzalez, stepfather to Patricia Hawk, our EMS director. And I believe Patricia's here tonight. She's in the very back. Next, we have Willie Jumper Jr. Willie was a softball player. If you played softball, you knew Willie Jumper. Next, we have Tyrone Beaver, whose aunt works in our housing authority at the Stillwell Clinic. Tyrone was killed in an auto accident this weekend. And next, we have Tim Baker, the father of Councilman Bill Baker. And those of us who know him as a coach and as a kind and generous man. Let us have a moment of silence for our Cherokee citizens who are no longer with us. Gone. Service and program updates. First, congratulations to our Cherokee Nation EMS for receiving a 3-year accreditation by the Commission on Accreditation of Ambulance Services, the CAAS. Let us get all of our EMS personnel down, please. You folks will be lined up here for a second. The National Accreditation recognizes only organizations that provide the highest quality of care to patients. This recognition is special because the Cherokee Nation's EMS team is setting the bar higher for quality health care services in Oklahoma. It's special because we were the very first tribe nationwide to achieve a CAAS accreditation. This is special because we were the first EMS unit in the entire state of Oklahoma to achieve a CAAS accreditation. This is also special because it is now first in the history of Cherokee Nation healthcare that all the health departments are nationally accredited. And what an achievement. And we would like to congratulate our EMS service. This week has been proclaimed EMS Week by Chief Chad Smith. Our department has many planned activities. Tomorrow, our EMS will be recognized at the state capitol in Oklahoma City. Congratulations. EMS has several activities and youth planned this week, including reading for kids at the Tahlequah Public Library, a visit on Wednesday to our Head Start program, and an open house. All of the events are educational, and they wrap up on Friday with an event at Walmart here in Tahlequah. And now I'd like to read the proclamation. Cherokee Nation Proclamation. To commemorate the week of May 15th to May the 21st, 2005 as Emergency Medical Service Week. Whereas members of the Emergency Medical Service teams devote their lives to saving lives of others. Whereas Emergency Medical Services teams consist of emergency physicians, nurses, emergency medical technicians, educators, and administrators. Whereas the people of the Cherokee Nation benefit daily from the knowledge and skill of these trained individuals. Whereas advances in emergency medical care increase the number of lives saved every year. Whereas the professional organizations that provide and providers of emergency medical services promote research to improve and adapt their skills as new methods of emergency treatment are developed. Whereas the members of Emergency Medical Services team encourage nation standardization of training and testing of emergency medical personnel and reciprocal recognition of training and credentials by the states. Whereas the designation of Emergency Medical Services Week will serve to educate the people of the Cherokee Nation about injury prevention and what to do when confronted with a medical emergency. Whereas it is appropriate to recognize the value of this accomplishment of Emergency Medical Services teams by designating Emergency Medical Services Week. Now, therefore, I, Chad Smith, Principal Chief of the Cherokee Nation, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 15th through the 21st, 2005 as Emergency Medical Services Week. Signed by the Chief. Yeah, and then with the pictures taken here.
May I just squeeze in just a little bit? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Our next is our military service. As we do every month, tonight we pay special tribute to Cherokee Nation veterans. Tonight's honorees are two brothers, Guy Wilson and Walter Wilson Jr. The Wilson brothers are originally from Holbrook. Their mother, Charlotte Wilson, and Walter Wilson are blessed with 8 children, 3 daughters, and 5 sons. I bet there was a lot of fighting in that family. All 5 sons served in the military. Their service spanned many battles, including World War II, the Vietnam War, and the Korean War. Walter Jr. and Guy of the Wilson family are direct descendants of Nancy Ward and Hare Conrad, 2 historical Cherokee figures during the time of removal. Guy Wilson entered the Army in 1942. He was a member of the 60th Quartermaster Corps and defended our country and nation in World War II. He spent his service time in the Pacific Theater. He was awarded several medals and was honorably discharged in 1944. Guy has an active interest in Cherokee history and politics, even running for council seat in the Cherokee in Cherokee County. Walter Wilson Jr. enlisted in the Air Force right after graduation from Hobart High School in 1948. He served in the United States Air Force Special Services Intelligence Division as a communication analyst serving overseas in places such as Korea and Vietnam. He retired in 1968 after serving 20 years. Please welcome Guy and Walter Wilson. Would you come down, please? Okay, guys. Give you this certificate and the seal, and we thank you, sir, for your service to the country. All I would like to present you with the seal and this certificate, sir. And we thank you for your service to the country and the Cherokee Nation. Thank you very much, sir. Next week's community announcements. I want to personally thank everyone and all the council members, employees, and citizens who came out this past weekend for the festivals around our nation. The Strawberry Festival, the Locust Grove Founders Day parades, and thank you for making every one of these a success. I want to thank every one of you on behalf of the chief. Next on the agenda is the action of unfinished business. And there being none, we will move on to the committee reports. Are there any tribal committee reports? Now the monthly reports, first on the list is the Housing Authority. David Stewart. David Sutherland. I'm sorry, David.
That's all right. Mr. Stewart's not a bad guy. Contrary to what we hear and read in the newspaper. Good evening, and I have a brief report this evening. The Housing Authority's regular board meeting for May will be held tomorrow evening at 5:30. We have a light agenda with the board taking up items that they weren't able to take up last month. One item is our office building in Salisaw. We currently lease a building in Salisaw. I've mentioned before that we have property that was purchased with the intent of building an office complex there. Another item to be discussed is the cost of allowing employees on call to drive vehicles home. These are employees that are on call at our apartment complexes. The board needs to look at the cost versus the benefit to determine if it's something we want to continue. We currently have 232 employees, of which 97% are Native American. We have lost staff over the last couple of months, I think primarily due to the uncertainty of funding. As you all probably know, Congress passed the 2006 budget a few weeks ago. We don't know and probably won't know the effect on Indian housing for a few more months once the appropriators slice the pie. We do have two programs we're having to discontinue. Our emergency program, we end on May 31st. The funding we use for that program will be used for other purposes beginning on June 1st. The mortgage assistance program is out of 2004 Indian Housing Block Grant funds and will be discontinued until October 1st. October 1st is the anticipated start date for the 2005 Indian Housing Block Grant funding for mortgage assistance. Our Community Shield program currently has 1,963 families participating. That's my report for this evening. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Any questions?
Mr. President.
Rich.
David, did you say there's not going to be any mortgage assistant dollars available until October 1?
That's correct. The 2004, we're out of the 2004 mortgage assistance funds. We're even putting some of our funding with it to finish out those applications that we're working at this time.
So anyone waiting for mortgage will be on a list, I assume, until October 1, and
correct.
Hopefully then.
The 2005 block grant, when it was submitted, that's pretty much the changing of the housing program, and the details or the policy hasn't been completed at this time. And the anticipated date that everything will go into place is October 1st.
Well, with our change, which basically relies heavily on mortgage assistance, I would like to see us begin being able to fund those things before October 1, but I understand the necessity. But still, we have folks out there waiting on those, and if that's basically all we're going to offer, I'd like to be able to offer it.
We can have some more detailed conversation, possibly Wednesday at the committee meeting.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any questions or discussion? Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Next is Cherokee Nation Enterprises. Mr. David Stewart.
Good evening.
Evening.
We had another great month at C&E. The financial statements speak for themselves. Our growth is expected to continue. We start the parking garage at Catoosa. Our board approved that. It will start in approximately 90 days. We are in the middle of design and expansions at West Siloam and Roland, and what I would consider in a phase 2, looking at the site plan and determining what we want to build. Will Rogers Downs will open July 1, provided the construction remains on schedule, so we're excited about that. Our board meeting is Monday at 9 o'clock at the 7th floor of the hotel in Catoosa, and we would invite all of you to come. And be glad to answer any questions you might have about C&E.
Any questions or discussion? Mr. Hoskins.
David, did your board take any action on withdrawing 18-year-olds' ability to game in our facilities?
Yes, they did. Effective June the 1st, we will require a gaming age of 21 instead of 18.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any other questions or discussion? Thank you, David.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Cherokee Nation Industries. Mr. Jim Majewski.
Good evening, Deputy Chiefs Grayson and members of the council. Cherokee Nation Industries sales for the month of April were about $8.4 million, about 20% greater than last year at this time. Profitability was about $750,000, or about 9% of sales. So our ability to make money continues to increase. I think last year at this time we were about 1% of sales, so a remarkable increase. Sales for the year are about $70 million right now, with profitability being about $3.5 million, or about 60% greater than last year. During the past month, we received additional housekeeping service contracts. We've got Colorado Springs, Eglin Air Force Base, and Fort Knox, and I've always wanted to get to Fort Knox. So, plus we received word that we were selected for the third-party administration contract for Humana Healthcare, and this is the healthcare for the retired military TRICARE contract. That part of the contract for Humana is about $2.5 billion. Our share of that we think is somewhere between 7 and 10% over the next 3 years, so it should be noticeable. We've also produced our first subcooler heat exchanger. This is a unit that fits on the air conditioners and improves the efficiency of an air conditioner by about 40%, thus reducing your electric bill by about 40% as well. Your air conditioner electric bill by about 40%. The first units are going to Frito-Lay. Our base prices for these units range from $1,000 to $3,000 for the manufacturer price. We have firm orders right now for 1,000 units and promised POs for about 18,000 units over the next 18 months. This program fits in. I think it's a very timely thing with President Bush's recent announcement on energy conservation as well. So I think we're positioned in a very interesting place right now. CNI backlog continues to be strong. We've just gotten recent orders for some target drones, wiring for aircraft. We've gotten some additional orders on our distribution products and as well as our personnel services. And our backlog is about $70 million, $70 million plus range. So our next board meeting is scheduled for May 26th at 9:30 a.m. Any questions?
Any questions? Ms. Fraley?
Mr. Majewski, a couple of weeks ago, I called Mr. Stockton about a potential contract in Washington, D.C. on coding. Do you know if he's had an opportunity to check into that?
We've been following that. Mr. Agsdale found it for us, or found a whole booklet. Right now, the Chickasaws have a contract doing about $30 million on it.
Mm-hmm.
We're having Ross Swimmer help get us a appointment with a gentleman that's head of that department and trying to get us in there. As you well know, trying to get an incumbent out is, especially if they're doing a decent job. But we're going to continue to push.
Sound like a good contract.
Yeah, it's $30 million is a nice
Appreciate
contract.
you following up on it.
Any other questions? Any other questions? Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Joe.
Next, we have Cherokee Nation Businesses, Mr. Jim Carrington.
Good evening. Thank you for having me again. I guess is what is becoming a habit now, another announcement of a fine addition to our employment base at C&B. Ms. Callie Catcher will be joining us officially. Actually, she started today. And she'll be serving as the treasurer for C&B Shared Services. So she will continue to work with you guys as she has in a lot of respects on your financial matters. She will continue to work in a treasurer capacity for C&E, C&I, as well as C&B. So you'll continue to see a very familiar face who really has joined our forces. So we're very, very proud to have her. Since the last time we met, we've had our first audit by Deloitte & Touche. They gave us an unqualified opinion, as we fully expected, and that's really an audit through the end of the fiscal year of 2004. That brings us back to Connex, which is our operating company at this point. Connex started out with a pretty aggressive plan that we had done about a year ago, and they've not met those sales projections, and so we continue to work with them as a startup company. That's not a big surprise at all. Most startups are expected not to make profits for about a year, and so we are working very closely with them and spending a lot of time managing that investment on behalf of the Cherokee Nation. One of the sales opportunities they have is through the call center, and so what we've done now is we've really stepped up our efforts to find out what it's going to take to get a contract in the call center. Since we're teaming with the Creeks on that, we're setting up meetings with their leadership team to see what efforts have been made and what we can do to accelerate that effort. It's a prime opportunity we hope to take advantage of really soon. I do want to make sure that everybody's aware of the efforts we are making. And we are, in our efforts to diversify, continuing to look at transactions, some of which are very close to closing, some of which are in different stages. But we are looking at environmental services, energy land management type services, as well as Connex. We also, as part of our efforts, continue to work with Mr. Majewski and Mr. Stewart to expand on their core capabilities like IT services, security services, and construction. So we have a lot of irons in the fire. We hope to make some announcements sooner rather than later. So bear with us and we'll continue our diversification efforts. That's all I have for this month. Any questions?
Any questions? Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Next, we move on to new business. First item on the agenda is confirmation of Housing Authority Advisory Board members. Ms. Fraley.
Serve as advisory board members on the Housing Authority Board, and they are Audrey O'Connor, Melvina Stockhouse, and Joe Crittenden. And I would move for approval of those confirmations.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, we have a resolution authorizing submission of fiscal year 2005 Rural Housing and Economic Development Grant. Ms. Schotthouse.
Okay, this is the resolution authorizing the submission of fiscal year 2005 Rural Housing Economic Grant from U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And this grant will be used to train young people in construction and management skills in energy efficient housing, which enables to enter the private market. So I'll put that in one motion.
Second. Motion's made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, we have a resolution authorizing the submission of a fiscal year 2005 Indian Community Development Block Grant. Ms. Schotthouse.
This resolution authorized submission of fiscal year 2005 Indian Community Development Block Grant to U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and this will be used for micro-enterprise program, public service program, for recreational activities, and for related purposes. A proposed cash match of $270,000 is already included in the comprehensive budget. So I'll put that in.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, we have a resolution authorizing the submission of a second-year continuation application. Ms. Schotthouse.
This is a resolution authorizing the submission of second-year continuation application for Compassion Capital Grant from U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And this application is continuation grant for second year of DHS for a comprehensive capital grant to provide training, technical assistance, and sub-awards to 30 Cherokee organizations to further develop their capacity to secure funding and operate social service activities and other programs. I'll put that one.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carried. Next, we have a resolution authorizing career services to develop and submit a grant application to the Department of Education.
Thank you, Mr.
Councilman
President. Vocational rehabilitation is applying for a new grant funding for a period of 5 years. The vocational rehabilitation program assists with the cost of training or retraining of Native Americans with disabilities in order for them to acquire the skills necessary to return to work or to maintain their current employment. The funding amount will be approximately $500,000 per year. There will be a 10% match requirement. This match will be provided by motor fuels tax funds. Career services staffing is already in place, and I put this in form of a motion.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. Item number 6 is a legislative act relating to and amending Legislative Act 3704, authorizing a comprehensive budget. Ms. O'Leary.
Yes, this is Mod 8, and it includes several authorizations as to increase in the budget of a little over $90 million, and some of that includes carryovers, and I put that in the form of a motion pack.
Second. Motion is made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Bill Mays.
Yes.
Bill John Baker.
Yes.
Roger Connor.
Yes.
Carol Callen.
Yes.
Joe Crichton.
Yes.
Mary Franklin. Yes. Tom Garvin.
Yes.
Charles Hoskins.
Yes.
William Johnson.
Yes.
John Keenan.
Yes.
Bill O'Leary.
Yes.
Jacob L. Martin.
Yes.
Giovanni Schotthouse. Yes. David Thornton.
Yes.
Lois George.
Yes.
Vote was unanimous. The act passed. Item number 7 is a resolution authorizing the purchase of land. Councilman Martin.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a tax resolution authorizes the offer and purchase of a 4.11 acre tract of land. The land is located in the north boundary of Oklahoma State Highway 62, immediately opposite the Sequoia School ground south of Talapaw. Cherokee County naturally, and I move for approval.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passed. Item 8, the resolution regarding a limited waiver of sovereign immunity. Councilman Martin.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, I would allow Council Lady Fraley to do this.
Sir. Ms. Fraley.
We purchased Will Rogers Down Racetrack in Claremore, and as in furtherance of our economic development efforts. Horse racing in Oklahoma has a great amount of state oversight and control, and it's controlled under the Oklahoma Horse Racing Act, which requires that Will Rogers Down meet certain conditions before the Horse Racing Commission will allow pari-mutuel wagering, gaming, or live horse racing. Based on those requirements set forth in the Oklahoma Horse Racing Act, the Commission has granted a conditional license to Will Rogers Down. And one of those conditions is that we grant a waiver of sovereign immunity for activities at Will Rogers Down, as well as a waiver for the government, which is limited to the escrow account, which would be held at Will Rogers Down. Now, this waiver is not as limited as the gaming compact waiver we recently approved, and I believe that has been of concern to most of us tribal council. However, since the horse track in Oklahoma is state regulated, the Commission requires all tracks, whether privately owned or tribally owned, that they operate under the same regulations. The Cherokee Nation Enterprises, which operates Will Rogers Down, business management team, which is a good management team, ensures us that this is a commercially reasonable waiver and they can successfully operate Will Rogers Down in accordance with the Oklahoma Horse Racing Act. They would like, as Mr. Stewart said, they'd like to start operation out there by July the 1st of this year. And if we don't qualify for the license and don't grant a waiver, we likely will need to do something else with the track. The Commission has 3 other tracks starting gaming and increased racing. Therefore, they really don't have a need to negotiate more limited waiver. But in order to open the floor for discussion, I would move for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I would second that with an amendment of offering some more limited language. I passed it out, and would you accept that amendment of this?
Yes, I will.
Language? We passed it out, and the major changes in the act that we sent to full council and what is being proposed here is we have dropped the Cherokee Nation waiver, we've dropped the Cherokee Nation Enterprises waiver, and we have basically given the chief authorization to give a waiver for Will Rogers Downs LLC, which has the money in it. It's actually the operator, and it says it's 100% owned by us. So it'll have the waiver will actually be Will Rogers Downs and that LLC. And I think that is a lot more what this council would like to see, and hopefully they can sell it to the state.
That's in the form of a motion.
It is in the form of a motion with an amendment.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? Any questions or discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, no?
No.
Roll call vote, please.
Yes. David Thornton?
Yes.
Yvonne Shoptown? No. Jacob Bob Martin?
Yes.
Linda Leary? Yes. John Keener?
Yes.
William Johnson?
Yes. No.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Joe Crispin,
Yes.
Carol Callen,
Yes.
Arnold Carter,
Yes.
Susan Baker, Bill England,
Yes. The motion passed for 13 days. And 2 noes. Item number 9 is a resolution authorizing Cherokee Nation Environmental Programs Group to submit a formal grant. Councilman Martin.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Cherokee Nation Environmental Program Group, through the Office of Environmental Services, is requesting financial assistance under the EPA Hazardous Waste Management Program for tribes to hold household hazard waste cleanup events. These collection events will be held in community service by the Cherokee Nation. The HHW event will remove from the environmental common household pollution such as pesticides, automotive fluid, solvent, paint that have the potential to impart negative impact on the health of the Cherokee citizens and their environment. This project will also be used to collect and recycle some of the Cherokee Nation surplus computers from the warehouse. I move for approval.
Motion is made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion passed. Item 10 is a resolution authorizing the submission of a tribal wildlife grant application. Councilman Martin.
I'd be glad to present this one too, Mr. President. This is an application for a tribal wildlife grant of $80,000 through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Cherokee Nation Wildlife and Subterranean Habitat Project will allow us to inventory habitats within the Cherokee Nation that is important to the endangered threatened species. Collect data on important wildlife resources and create a database. The information obtained will be used in planning and land management decisions that affect these natural resources. And I move for approval.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. Item 11 is a legislative act relating to the regulation of above-ground and underground storage tanks. Councilman Martin.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a lengthy piece of legislation that was discussed, I think, thoroughly in our Resource Committee meeting, but this act revokes existing outdated laws in Title 63 CNCA and establishes a comprehensive code for regulating underground and above-ground storage tanks. It is necessary to effectively operate the Cherokee Nation's existing environmental program, which provides guidance, compliance, and assistance to owners and operators of storage tank systems on tribally owned land. It will require spills of diesel or gasoline to be reported to the Administration Environmental Program within 24 hours, and I move for approval.
Motion's made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Joe Baker,
Yes.
Arnold Carter,
Yes.
Carol Callen,
Yes.
Joe Crispin,
Yes.
Meredith Fraley,
Yes.
Don Garvin,
Yes.
Charles Hoskins,
Yes.
William Johnson,
Yes.
John King,
Yes.
Neil O'Leary,
Yes.
Jacob L. Martin,
Yes.
Caroline Stonehouse,
Yes.
David Thornton,
Yes.
Phyllis Georgie, yes. Bill England,
Yes. Vote is unanimous. The act passed. Item 12 is a legislative act requiring the Registrar of the Cherokee Nation and the Registration Committee to issue citizenship cards to individuals approved by the Joint Cherokee Nation to join the Cherokee Nation. Councilman Fraley.
This legislation requires the term member or membership to be replaced with the term citizen or citizenship, and to have all new blue cards that are issued to have the term citizen or citizenship, and to have the term citizen replace member on all statutes and documents within the Cherokee Nation. I would move for approval.
Second. Motion made, seconded. Any questions or discussion? Ms. Cowan?
I just wanted to make note, this actually was initiated by one of my constituents, David Williams from Catoosa, Oklahoma, and I was excited to see our government working in that way, so I just wanted to acknowledge David and tell him how much I appreciate the fact that we need to go forward and how we use language, because one of the things that we do as a nation, as a sovereign nation, is we are not members of a club, but we are citizens of a sovereign nation. I think that's important to recognize that in the language we use. I appreciate Leela's work and Jack Baker's in considering this legislation and making sure that it was written appropriately so that we can go forward in 2005 as citizens of a nation. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Roll call vote.
Audra Connor? Yes. Kara Cowan?
Yes.
Joe Christian?
Yes.
Meredith Braley?
Yes.
Don Garland?
Yes.
Charles Hoskin?
Yes.
William Johnson?
Yes.
John Keenan?
Yes.
Linda O'Leary?
Yes.
Jackie Bob Martin?
Yes.
Devon Shoptown?
Yes.
David Thornton?
Yes.
Phil Georgie?
Yes.
Bill England?
Yes.
John Baker?
Yes.
The act passed. The vote was unanimous. Item 13, a resolution appointing tribal delegates and alternates to the National Congress of American Indians. Ms. Fraley.
The National Congress of American Indians is an organization that focuses on issues affecting Indian country and Indian tribes, and they're a very strong voice for Native Americans in Washington, D.C. But to be eligible to vote on a particular issue as it relates, for instance, to the Cherokee Nation, at their annual convention and executive council meetings, the person must be a member of the National Congress of American Indians. This resolution approves the individuals listed on the resolution as delegates and alternate delegates to the NCAI. The amount of the membership dues is $5,000, which is to be paid by an equal amount from the executive and legislative branches out of an existing appropriation. And I would move for approval.
Second.
The motion is made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Ms. Shottown.
I'm glad to see that we're back in the membership with NCAI. I felt like, when we wasn't, that we were missing out something, so I'm glad to see it after we do it. Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion?
Point of order. According to our council rules, every one of these, or at least number 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 13, were presented without a sponsor. And to keep our rules the way they're supposed to be, myself would sign on as a sponsor to them, or we can have somebody else that really is a sponsor on these to be correct with the rules.
Mr. President,
Ms. Keller.
I'd like to make a motion that the chair of the appropriate committee be designated as the sponsor for each bill that's expedited this for tonight.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Scott.
I believe the action that Mr. Baker just has taken needs to be approved, first of all, by amending this agenda to do that. And so I'd recommend doing that and then voting on this issue.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to amend the agenda to include this item. Any questions or discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, no? Motion carried. Now, Ms. Cowan, you're...
So just to make sure that all minds are clear, my motion is for tonight only to make the appropriate committee chair the sponsor of the bill if there is no sponsor listed. But let me caveat this, going forward, we need to rectify this because it is a rules and procedures, and I'm not sure who the appropriate person is. Audra, as secretary of the council, is going to get this job of making sure that the sponsors are included on the legislation prior to the full-size council. Actually, they should be be sponsored when they come to committee. So that's what
Was there a second?
Bill second.
Okay.
Mr. President, for the record and for clarification, could you read those numbers again, please, that we're voting on?
Item 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 13.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Now, any more questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion? Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. Now we get back to item 13. We had a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion on the NCII? All in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carried. Are there any announcements?
Mr. President,
Mr. Garvin.
we have two visitors here, two young ladies all the way from Florida, Oklahoma. Dixie Mabry and Barbara Harris. Would you ladies stand? Wave a hand. Good to have you with us tonight.
Ms. Sharji.
I'd also like to recognize two visitors from Gore, from Sequoia District, from the Youth Council, who are part of the audience. Would you all stand? John Brooks and Michelle Lopez.
Mr. England.
I'd like to recognize our District 8 Youth Council, one of our youth council people, Scott.
Thank you, Mr. President. On May 28th, there is another work day for the Cherokee Heritage Center in 10 a.m. So we'll start work at 10 a.m. and work till probably 2 or 3 at least. But we greatly appreciate it if those, I know it's Memorial Day weekend, but even if you can come give a couple of hours before you go out to your graveyards to decorate or be with your family, it would be greatly appreciated. It was the only weekend that was available and open prior to the opening season of the ancient village, and there needed a lot of work. And we worked I guess it was May 7th. We worked that weekend. Mr. Ketcher back there joined us. Don Garvin and myself were there, and several of my constituents joined us. And we got a lot of work done, even with only a few people. But it would be greatly appreciated if folks could show up and support the Heritage Center, because for whatever reason, they're not getting the volunteers they need. It'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Any other announcements?
Thank you. I'd just like to congratulate all of our graduates throughout Cherokee Nation, those leaving 8th grade and entering their high school years, those leaving high school, entering their college years, vocational school, whatever they're planning to do, the world of work, and those that have graduated from college that are now looking for jobs. So I just want to congratulate all of those, and our prayers be with them and their families as they move forward in their lives. Thank you.
Any other announcements? The next council meeting is June the 20th. Motion made to adjourn and seconded. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Meeting adjourned.